To the nation, she is Queen Elizabeth II and head of the British royal family. But to her 4 children, Charles, Anne, Andrew and Edward, she is mum. And to her 8 grandchildren, including Prince William and Prince Harry, she is granny. Today, I'm asking Queen Elizabeth, are you okay? For those new to my channel, I'm Sue Blackhurst and I bring the world of social psychology into everyday language. So if you are fascinated by people and love learning about yourself and people around you, then subscribe to my channel now and learn all about human behaviours every Monday and every Thursday. So let me ask you, what were you doing in your mid-20s? Now, maybe you were settling into your first job after university, or perhaps taking some time out to travel around the world with friends. Maybe you'd found your perfect partner and you were looking for a first home together. Well, whatever you were doing or you're currently doing now, I suspect that the extent of the pressure on your shoulders was probably working out how to repay the student loan, or maybe finding enough money for a deposit on your first house, or even adjusting to corporate life. But looking back at my 20s, I don't think at the time I could have handled any more pressure than I had, especially the responsibility of running 4 countries. Now, when Queen Elizabeth's father, King George VI, died in 1952, he was just 56. Elizabeth was 25 years old, and as the eldest daughter, she took the throne overnight and became Queen Elizabeth II, and with it took on all the royal duties. Now, she was a new mum. Charles was just 4 and Anne was just 2, and she worked tirelessly for her country until Prince Andrew was born 8 years later in 1960 and Prince Edward was born in 1964. Now, the Queen is now in her 90s and she continues to carry out anything from 250 to 350 royal engagements a year. And in recent years, she's actually carried out more royal duties than Prince William and Prince Harry combined. Now, in 2017, her husband, Prince Philip, retired from public engagements at the grand old age of 96. Now, to me, and hopefully to the majority of the population who have their own ageing parents or grandparents, surely this signifies that this is when family should be rallying around her to take over duties and responsibilities, and also to encourage her to take life a little easier and enjoy these golden years. But no, at 93, Queen Elizabeth is more than likely still getting up at 7:30 in the morning to her usual cup of Earl Grey tea. She's having a bath, having her hair done and joining her husband for breakfast before sitting at her desk to go through the morning papers and official documents. And that includes state papers and letters that she needs to read and sign. Now, if she's lucky, she may walk her dogs before lunch, attend meetings, and hopefully find a little bit of time to see her family at some stage during her very busy and full day. Now, if we cut out the hairstylist and the butler making breakfast, my mornings have a similar theme, because I get up and enjoy my cup of Lady Grey tea. I have a shower, drop the kids at the bus stop and grab a piece of toast as I sit at my desk and start sifting through my hundreds of emails and the day's jobs. But every day ends when I pick the kids up from the bus stop and I ask them that same question that the majority of parents ask: how was your day today? And inevitably I get one of 3 answers. It's either okay, good or great. And that's where my troubles end, because what they have done or said remains with them and their friends in school. So how would I feel if their every action, comment and friendship was analysed and reported to the world on a daily basis? Now, if these reports were all based upon excellent work and contribution to society, I would, of course, be tremendously proud. But what if my day consisted of waking up every day to find out what certain members of the family could possibly do to shed a further dark shadow over our family home? And this is where I really feel for the Queen, because she may have a wealth of advisors who call her mom, but when you come down to it, she's still a mum and a grandmother, and based purely on that level, I would love to ask her, are you okay? Now, I have 2 children and I can't think of anything that they could do to make me less proud or supportive. And of course, I can't speak for every parent out there, but I would expect that most would agree that you stand by your children and do whatever you can to protect them and guide them, no matter how old they are or what they've done. You then watch your grandchildren grow up, and although I can't speak from experience, I know that my parents said that the love they had for their grandchildren was, in the words of Whitney Houston, the greatest love of all. And they said that grandchildren made their world complete. But these feelings and emotions aren't related to age, wealth, status or position in the community. These are emotions that parents and grandparents all over the world will relate to, and I believe that even the Queen has got a secret stash of sweets and treats stashed into her handbag. So when you see your child or your grandchild in trouble, they're not the only ones to feel the pain. Because when your child comes in from a bad day, you want to do everything you can to look after them, to boost them up and send them back off again. But a little part of you continually prays that it's all going to get much better. And more often than not, it's the parent or grandparent who loses the most sleep with worry. Because I remember growing up and the pain I must have caused my parents, taking boyfriends home. Some of them I loved, but my parents were horrified by. Some of them my parents loved and I was horrified by. But at the end of the day, my parents always encouraged me to make my own decisions, but they were always there when I got it wrong, which I did on too many occasions. So being a parent involves unconditional love. So, is there a point at which you would ever feel that you needed to either cut off or disown your own child? Now, I can't ever imagine being faced with that dilemma. So how must the Queen be currently feeling with all the current negative press regarding her son and her grandson, with calls to throw them out of the royal family, sack them, let them move to another country? It must surely be breaking her heart. So Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip's children were often cared for by household staff because their parents were travelling around the world on state visits. Now that could lead us to question whether the children formed a stronger bond with the nannies, who by nature of the work would see their first steps, hear the first words, etc. Now many may see this as an easy option, having a full-time childcare. But as a mum, how hard must it have been to know that you have to dedicate your whole life to royal duties? So looking back, Elizabeth was a young mum and she had no option but to rely on others to make major family decisions, and she depended upon these nannies to supervise the daily lives of her young children. Not only that, for Charles, he had always the added tension of being heir to the throne, and from a young age he would have known that one day he would take the position of king once his mother dies. And that must create quite a unique parent-child relationship that I think very few can ever really understand. Now, in defence of the Queen, it is reported that when these nannies were off duty, she loved nothing more than kneeling beside the bath, bathing her children, reading them stories and putting them to bed. Because Andrew was the next one to be born. Now this was 12 years after Charles, and the Queen had been on the throne now for 8 years, so she was a little bit more experienced in both motherhood and being Queen. And it is understood that at this stage the Queen wanted to be a little bit more of a mum. She was warmer and a bit more flexible with her royal duties, and so she spent more time with her children. 4 years later, Edward was born. Now, Edward, of course, now is further down the line in succession to the throne, and this enabled him to be a bit more distant from royal duties, and he'd become a little bit more relaxed. And Edward does live a little bit more of a normal life. He and his wife, Sophie, they apparently spend many weekends with the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh because they want to ensure that the grandparents have as big a part in their grandchildren's lives as they possibly can. As of today, the Queen is mother to 4. She's grandmother to 8 and great-grandmother to 8 following the birth of Archie. And on top of all of that, she is the greatest and longest reigning monarch in history. Now, in 2012, Kate Winslet was awarded with a CBE, and it's reported that she told the Queen that she loved being a mum even more than being an actress, to which the Queen replied, "Yes, that's the only job which matters." So today, my message is to the children and the grandchildren. Isn't it time to stop your selfish ways and think about this great lady who has looked after this country and the Commonwealth for nearly 67 years? She took on the role long before expected and hasn't put a foot wrong. Now, she does not need to be reading about your complaining and your bad behaviours. So stop whining, and if you have nothing of value to say to the media that doesn't benefit the country, then don't say anything at all, because your mother or grandmother has spent 67 years following tradition and getting the best advisors to help her perfect the role and serve the country. So if you are ever in any doubt, seek the guidance of those more experienced and listen to their advice. But more importantly, act upon that advice so you don't risk hurting those you are supposed to love and care about. Now, I lost my mum last year, so I can now speak from experience. Because no matter what you do, your mum will always love you and she will always stand by you. So stop being so selfish and remember, you are never too old or too important to look after your mum. So on a daily basis, go and ask your mum if she's all right. So thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate all your support and some of the great comments that I've been getting. Now, if you have ideas and suggestions of things you'd like me to cover in future weeks, let me know in the comments section. Just put down what you'd like me to go through, because some of my recent videos have also been based on the viewer suggestions. Don't forget to give me a like if you've enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you are interested in learning more about human behaviour. My next video will be out on Thursday. You can catch up on last week's video up here, and I will see you on Thursday. Thanks again, guys. Bye bye.